Please rewind this cassette.
There's a lot to be said about 60s counterculture and its impact on the generations that have come after it. In many ways, it's become more of a fantasy than I think the reality of living in that time was actually like. If you were to discuss Woodstock, the 3-day concert that is considered the defining moment of this era, you have a lot of things to pull from: books, newspaper articles, the Academy Award winning documentary. But one piece of work that is often ignored is Ang Lee's Taking Woodstock. A financial and critical failure upon release, Taking Woodstock follows Elliot, played by comedian Demetri Martin. He's the son of immigrant parents who own a failing motel in Bethel, New York. Elliot's dreams have been put on hold in order to help support his parents. But things change when Elliot strikes a deal with Michael Lang to host the Woodstock Festival on nearby land owned by his neighbor. The motel is rented out by Lang and his crew of characters. There's a famous saying that people who went to Woodstock never really saw the concert. With the amount of people who showed up, it was extremely difficult to get anywhere near the stage, so most people just got in tents or did drugs or just hung out around the concert. This is one of the keys to this movie. It's not about the show, it's not about the spectacle. It's the small stories going on around it. Taking Woodstock is filled with wonderful supporting performances from Eugene Levy, Emile Hirsch, and my personal favorite, Liev Schreiber as a trans ex-military who offers to work security for the motel.
Some kind of uniform?
Oh, I've got uniforms, baby.
There's a lot going on at Taking Woodstock. Lee, a master of the ensemble dramedy, is playing in familiar territory here. You can see glimpses of the ice storm, or even something like his breakout film The Wedding Banquet. He's got an amazing eye for period detail, and can find nuances in his actors that make the characters feel like they belong more in a novel than a film. At the center of all this is Martin, who sometimes seems overwhelmed by the project. This was his first movie, after all, but in the end he does give a winning performance. His journey of self-discovery is done with little sentimentality and cliché, and by the end we feel like he went from naive to wise. The movie shares DNA with Linklater's Dazed and Confused. It's a hangout movie that avoids focusing on major events, helping everything feel more real. We spend time with these characters when nothing is going on, and little things early on add up for more emotional beats in the third act.
Man, right there at the top of that hill.
It's a film that lacks focus, and at times, the pace can feel meandering, but I've always found it to be an extremely relaxing experience. I like living in this world, and while I can understand many of the criticisms towards this movie upon release, I don't think it ever got a chance to find its audience. This is a perfect candidate for a Criterion release. Lee's using a lot of metaphor and subversion here. He knows what you expect the film to be and what it should look like, but as per usual, he's focused on people. Ang Lee doesn't make family movies, but he does make movies about family. Taken as a whole, Taking Woodstock does show glimpses of a better movie that it could have been, and the overall lack of music and energy could be a bit of a disappointment considering the talent involved. But I think it's more of a movie with great standout scenes that makes it all worthwhile. For instance, the movie features a great trip sequence. In fact, I'll say it's the greatest trip sequence in movie history, even better than anything in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. As someone who's done acid a few times, I've never seen the experience handled in such a realistic way. I don't know if it was Lee, the editor, or the special effects team, but the visuals are shockingly accurate, and the mood is too. I think of something like Across the Universe and how cartoony all the visuals were when they were tripping, and I think it would put people off to ever trying LSD, like it makes it seem scary or crazy. But like, look at this shot of Paul Dano. That's acid. There's great cinematography throughout, not showy enough to get praised by any film snob, but impressive enough to warrant discussion and study. Let's say this is a minor work in his filmography. Well, most of the greatest directors of all time have minor works in their filmography. That doesn't make them bad. It just isn't a masterpiece like Eat, Drink, Man, Woman or Brokeback Mountain or Crouching Tiger, what have you. But it sure is a hell of a lot better than Gemini Man or whatever the fuck else Lee is up to these days. Imagine taking Woodstock at 60 frames per second. Or Hulk. Jesus Christ. One could easily overanalyze and look for too much in a movie like this. And perhaps this was the problem with critics back in 2009. It's a mood piece. Not a docudrama or expansive epic about one of the most significant events of the 20th century. To look for all of that is to miss the point. Really, Lee's message is rather simple. When the moment comes, take it.